guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutations Mix and Match figures. That's right, it's another new series under the new Mutations banner, giving us a whole assortment of brand new action figures that have a really fun mix and match play feature that I'm going to show you guys exactly how it works in just a bit here. First of all, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging for all of the new figures in this lineup. As you can see, they come on that new brighter green color packaging, very similar to what we saw with the transforming Pet Turtle to Ninja Turtle figures that I already took a look at. The blister bubble fully showcases each of the action figures within, as well as gives you an image of the different ways you can mix and match the parts between all of the figures. And when you flip the boxes around to the back side, you also get individual images for every single figure showing their parts just swapped around with several different figures in this lineup. You also get a look at all the figures available in this new line, including all four turtles, Leo, Raph, Mikey, and Don, plus Master Splinter, Metalhead, Shredder, Slash, and Tiger Claw. And we're going to take a look at every single one of them here today. So first things first, let's look at the individual figures when we pull them out of the packaging. One thing you're going to notice when you buy these guys is that every one of the figures actually comes with one mismatched part in the box. Also, several of their limbs are detached, so when you open them up, you'll want to pop those parts on to complete the figure there. But for example, all four turtles come with a piece of Metalhead. Now, it's not just replacing one of the actual parts of the figure, because the standard arm or leg is also in the package with each of the turtles. You just get an extra Metalhead piece in there, but that way if you only buy this figure you can kind of see how the mixing and matching works. All of the other figures in the line all come with random pieces of Donatello, and again, those are just extra pieces to Donatello. In fact, if you buy Metalhead and Donatello in this line, you're just going to end up with a bunch of Donnie and Metalhead pieces once you buy everybody. So the figures themselves are all new sculpts, and the turtles do stand out and look a little bit different than what we've seen from all the other variations, but for the most part are easily identifiable and pretty much fit the standard as far as the way they all look. They all have the different color skin tones there, the various shades of green, which is exactly the same we've seen with all the other turtles so far in the line. All of their facial expressions are good sculpts. They do a good job of mimicking each of the personalities of the turtles, and they do all feature those whited out eyes. Also, the bodies do feature a really nice sculpt job on there because there's a lot of great details on there. You can see the scales, lots of scratches on the fronts and backs of their shells, and overall I feel like the sculpts on the four turtles are very good. The paint jobs are pretty much exactly what we've come to expect at this point. They're nothing too elaborate, but all of their wraps and their belts and everything are painted on the figures, and of course they have their signature colors on all of their bandanas. And each of the four turtles do include their signature weapons, which are just solid color pieces of plastic and exactly the same as we've seen for the other turtles. Now, taking a look at the other figures briefly in the lineup, a lot of these figures here look a lot like their basic figure counterparts. I mean, looking at figures like Metalhead and Splinter and even Tiger Claw, you almost can't tell the difference between these and their basic figures. The sculpts are very similar, the paint jobs are exactly the same as what we've seen before, so there's really no extra paintwork or anything that we haven't already seen on any of the other figures. Shredder looks a lot like the first release of Shredder, doesn't have the cape, he's a little bit smaller, and Slash looks overall the same, however, he is a bit bigger on this one. So since we're talking about these guys compared to their other counterparts, let's go ahead and get this out of the way now. It's comparison time. I went ahead and stood the mix and match turtles alongside some of their basic figure counterparts, and so that you can tell the difference, I went ahead and popped on those random pieces that each of them came with, just so you can see them standing side by side. That way you can see the similarities and the differences between the sculpts of the turtles, and you can see just how similar figures like Metalhead, Splinter, Tiger Claw, and even Shredder are. The big difference, of course, is Slash, because he is so much taller this time around, which, in my opinion, is a huge improvement over the basic Slash figure that was already released. One of my biggest complaints about that figure is that he was way too short, and while this new Slash still isn't as big as he was in the cartoon series, he is taller than the turtles now, which is very welcome for the collection, and he looks great when you pose him next to all four of those turtles doing battle. All right. So the figures themselves, they look pretty good. They're very standard as far as all their sculpts and the paintwork go. Not a lot of different things going on here from what we've seen from the basic figures. What makes these guys stand out from everything else is the mix and match play feature. All of the figures have the ability to pop apart in 5 places: the head, the arms, and the legs. They just pop apart at the joints where they're all ball jointed. Now, because of this, the articulation is a bit limited on these figures. The only articulation that we're going to get here is a head that rotates left and right, arms that move up and down as well as outwards and backwards there because of the ball joint, and thighs that do the same thing, legs that can kind of go outwards, forwards, backwards, and they can swivel. There's going to be no elbow bends or no knee bends in the figures. But if we're talking about this toy line, we don't often get elbow and knee bends anyway, so the articulation isn't too terribly different from what we normally see. The big difference is the fact that we have all these ball joints here, which allows us to do this. The figures can completely be pulled apart at all of those ball joints, which is going to allow you to do the mix and match feature. And you can see it's very easy to do. It's real easy for any kid to be able to grab these figures and just pull all the little joints right apart there. Splinter, a little bit different here. He's got that skirt, so you got to kind of reach up under the robe part there, and you pull the cool rat legs off at the joints of the thighs there. And I will say that the joints are still nice and tight. I mean, you can kind of hear them pop on, and they pop off. So they're not loose at all. I mean, you can see they don't get too loose. They're not wobbly. They still articulate very well, but they're still very easy to completely dissect the figures and pull them apart. And all of the figures in this line work exactly the same way. One of the other things I've noticed is that the plastic on these figures does feel a bit softer from what we normally feel on the turtle figures, and that, of course, is to allow for it to be easier to pop the parts on and off without having to worry about breakage or anything like that. They're not overly gummy or anything like that. It feels fine. It's just noticeably different when standing or when holding onto one of the basic figures compared to these guys. So as you can see, I am completely pulling these figures apart here. I mean, it's very cool. Very easy to do. You can pop all these off. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what is the point in this? It's a bit odd. It's an interesting feature that they decided to add on here. But it's a play factor. I mean, it's all about fun. Honestly, I feel like kids will have a blast mixing and matching these parts because you can create all kinds of silly things. I mean, you could take any of the turtle bodies, you can pop on any of the other heads like this, you can pop on crazy legs. I mean, you can completely mismatch these guys however you want to. I mean, look at this. I got Splinter's head on a turtle body with a shredder arm, tiger claw arm, metal head leg. I mean, you can just make your own really wacky mutations. And that's kind of the whole fun thing here. I mean, the whole idea is, what if these guys were extra mutated? I mean, you're making your own weird and wacky mutants here. And you can get really creative with these, or you can make them as basic as possible. I mean, if you just want to do a couple head swaps, you can just do some head swaps. If you just want to do a few body swaps and make it look like they're wearing other people's clothes, you can do that. Or you can get really zany, and you can just completely go bonkers with these and mix and match all of the parts just to make some really funky abominations of characters. It's a lot of fun. It really is. I mean, I sat here forever just playing with these, as you can see in all the pictures, and just trying to figure out all the different weird things I could come up with just because it's fun. It's addictive. Once you start doing it, you just want to sit there and keep doing it. And honestly, I think that is going to be the big draw on these with the kids. Kids are going to have a lot of fun with these, and that's exactly what these are meant for. These are meant to have fun. You're supposed to figure out all the weird things you can do and assemble and put together on these guys and just come up with some really funny things or some really cool looking things and do whatever you want to do. So these guys are neat. It's got a play feature, and that's definitely going to be a niche thing. Like I keep saying, I feel like kids are going to get the most enjoyment out of these. Collectors, maybe not so much. Maybe you don't need the mix and match stuff. But I will say this, the figures themselves are still very nice. In fact, if you're having difficulty locating some of the figures like Tiger Claw or maybe Splinter or any of these guys for the most part, you can actually pick up these mix and match ones and put them right in as fill-ins in your collection, and you almost wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. They work very well. And if there's one figure from this line that you pick up, just one, get Slash. He's an improvement over the basic figure Slash that was already released. His articulation isn't much different than what we've already got. He's got the same weapon, it's a cool sculpt, and he's much bigger than what we had before, so he is an improvement. If you get any figure in this line, definitely get Slash. But I would still recommend checking these out. I honestly think you're going to have a lot of fun with them. If you got kids at home that love turtles, seriously, these are right up their alley. Look at that, I'm sitting here, I could keep playing with this thing all day. Seriously, this is a lot of fun. So, these brand new Mix and Match Mutations figures are slated to start hitting stores in January 2015, but they've already started sneaking into stores right now like the ninjas that they are. So, happy hunting, my friends, and until next time. Oh.